Hey everybody, it's Emily from Campbell's Family Dobermans featuring Sergeant, who is being super clingy and will not leave me alone. But I wanted to do our first episode of Pup Talk Weekly with Campbell's Family Dobermans. What that is a weekly video that we're going to be doing to talk about different things that are affecting the breed or different interesting facts about them and maybe what you guys might want to know more about. So today's topic is going to be the differences between American lineage, European lineage, and then those hyper type Dobermans that you see a lot in, I'll just call out Pride of Russia is one of the biggest kennels that you see, like the really big chested, boxy Dobermans that almost look abnormal at some points. So we're going to talk about the differences with the standard versus AKC versus FCI, which is European standard, as well as the hyper types, some health statistics with each one, and then what we do here at Campbell's Family Dobermans to try to help curb some of those issues. So we'll jump right into it. With the American lines, you're looking at the American AKC, the American Kennel Club standards. So you're talking about for males, for their height, they should be between 26 to 28 inches as a maximum height at the shoulders, and they should weigh between 75 to 100 pounds. That is the AKC standard for males. Then for the females, you're going to have 24 to 26 inches high, and then they can weigh between 60 to 90 pounds. Now, of course, you're going to have some deviation with some of them. You might have pups that come out really large. You might have some that are on the smaller side. That doesn't mean that they're not obviously purebred. You're going to have some deviations. But if you want to stay within the standard, or if you're looking specifically for show and conformation, you're going to want to keep it within those numbers that we talked about. Now, health-wise, when we're talking about health, I looked up some of the health statistics affecting the American line Dobermans and what those numbers might look like. So, of course, we're very eyes on the DCM, or dilated cardiomyopathy, that is affecting the Doberman breed. And unfortunately, in the American lineage, there are statistics that show that those numbers are anywhere between 40 to 50% affected. So at any point, Dobermans in the American lineage have 40 to 50% chance of developing DCM in their lifetime. So as breeders and people who are trying to preserve the breed, it is really important to be paying attention to those numbers, paying attention to your dog's genetics, and then obviously environmental, which you guys know I'm huge on, and I'm sure I'll have another pup talk about that. Now for von Willebrand's. So von Willebrand's is the bleeding gene. It's a disorder, right? But there's two recessive genes that would lead to them having it. That is actually, let me look at my numbers here, 30 to 40% of American lined dogs carry the gene, either carry or are affected. Now, when we're looking at genetics, I have another video previously that I'll revisit where we talk about carrier versus affected. Carrier means they have one copy of that recessive gene, that they can't actually develop the gene from genetic disposition. And the biggest risk with that when you're breeding is you never want to breed a carrier to another carrier or to a dog that has two copies of the gene, which is then affected. But that being said, that's another day, another pup talk. Now going on to the next health statistic with the American lines is hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism, there's 8 to 10% of the population of American lineage that is affected with this disease. Unfortunately, that is something that can happen, but 8 to 10% is a lot lower than the other numbers we were just talking about. As far as average lifespan with the American Dobermans, you're looking at anywhere between 10 to 12 years. So that's a decent amount of time, considering a lot of them, unfortunately, right now are dying a lot younger. And unfortunately, there's a lot of DCM involved with that. As far as their look, the American Dobermans have been bred and prioritize a sleek. They're known for their elegance, a sleek look, very pretty, very feminine. They still have the deep chest and they should have a nice tuck, but very sleek and agile. And that's kind of what they do, is they pick certain dogs out of each litter that obviously prioritize what they're trying to go for, and they continue to breed those to get the look that they're really going for. Now we're gonna move on to the European Dobermans. European Dobermans are bred to the FCI standard. So that is the, I can't say it, Fédération something or other. I'll have to practice my pronunciation of it, but it's essentially like AKC for Europe. I will tell you the FCI standards are a lot more strict than AKC. They only allow red and black, where the AKC does allow 4 different colors. They allow red, black, Isabella, or fawn, and blue, where Euro only recognizes red and black Dobermans. So moving on from that, you're looking at their size. Males in the European FCI standards should be between 27 and 28.5 inches tall. And then they can also weigh between 88 and 99 pounds. So wait a minute, did you guys catch that? AKC is 26 to 28 inches and can weigh up to 100 pounds. But FCI is 27 to 28.5 and can weigh up to 99. That doesn't really make sense when you're thinking, oh, Europeans are so much bigger, right? So whenever I see people like trying to push that out there, they're so much bigger, they're so much bigger. Not really, if they're bred to the standard. The things that Europeans are bred for and focus on is they're known for being robust, and they're also known for their very strong working drive. They can be a bit more stubborn, but they're always on go. They want to work. This isn't a dog that you can get and expect to be just a couch buddy. Now going into the health, this is a little bit concerning because there is a big push out there right now to run with just European lines. I've seen it across the board. Oh, I want full Euro, I want full Euro. I get questions a lot. Are yours full Euro? No, and I'll tell you why. Health statistics, DCM statistics, I will put the links in the comments for the articles that I pulled. 58 to 60% of European line Dobermans will develop DCM in their lifetime. That does not mean they have to have the genetic disposition for it. Remember, we can talk about environmental, dietary, their life, how are they exercising, what is all the components that are feeding into this as well. So these are all big contributing factors, but that is a scary number, 60%. That means 60 out of every 100 Dobermans from the European lines is going to drop dead from DCM at some point in their life. So something to really be watching for, and maybe learn more about what we do here, which we'll get to at the end. Other health statistics for them, von Willebrand. So back to that bleeding disorder, 30 to 50% of the European lines carry that von Willebrand. So that can mean that they carry one copy or they can carry both, but either way, it's in there up to 50% of their lines. So again, that goes back to breeding and making sure you're responsibly choosing your pairings to prevent puppies from developing that bleeding disorder. And then the hyperthyroid is a hypothyroidism rather. In the Euro lines is slightly smaller than the American lines, is 6 to 8%. So again, not a big thing that they're dealing with, but it is still there. The lifespan for these European Dobermans is 9 to 11 years. Sorry, G. He's looking at the babies. I need to make sure he doesn't get in trouble with the mama. 9 to 11 years. And again, this goes back to that DCM really playing a role, their size, their structure. It's a lot of things that go into it that reduce that. Let's go into the hypertype. Hypertype, for those of you who don't know that saying, down, thank you. The hypertype are the kind that you see that have the huge chest and they're just like diesel and they're buff and they're tall and their heads are just like blocks. Those are, I familiarize it the most if I say Pride of Russia. If you look a lot of like the older Pride of Russia dogs, that's how they look, and they tend to still keep breeding those. With those dogs, they're not the breed standard. Let's just throw that out there. They actually go against the FCI standard, and they're prioritizing their appearance over their actual health and functionality. So with those dogs, you're going to have joint issues, you're going to have structural issues, you're going to have a lot more increased prevalence of heart issues because of the weight and the stress on them. Obviously, they'll never be show confirmation. They'll never be able to be Title IV confirmation because of being outside of the standard. A lot of times those hypertype end up being over 30 inches tall, and they can be well over 100 pounds because they're not the standard. And although it's unconfirmed, and a lot of those higher well-known kennels will never actually admit to it, there is a lot of speculation that they've crossbred into a Great Dane, Rottweiler, and some other of the Mastiff type breeds to get the look that they have. Again, that's never been confirmed, but there is a lot of speculation. You could also, if just from a breeder's perspective, you could just always take the largest puppies from your litters and then keep crossing them to continuously try to get that, but let's be honest, there's something going on with those. The biggest thing with them, a lot of them are gonna die early on because it's just not healthy for them to be that way. And if you look at some of their records, which in a lot of the SCI, you can pull their death records and it shows you how old they are. A lot of them are under 6 to 7 years old or less. So something to be concerned about. Now let's jump into what we do here at Campbell's Family Dobermans and what we prioritize and why we do it. So I just went over the numbers with you, different health statistics, the biggest ones that are affecting the Dobermans. You're talking about von Willebrand's, you're talking about DCM. Sorry, you leave her alone. The things that are actually killing our dogs and what we do here. For those of you who don't know, I am an ICU nurse. I have a lot of intensive care background as well as a lot of experience with genetics, and just I have a passion for it, so I learn a lot about it. When you're looking at genetics, not everything can be caused by genetics. You're also looking at different things like congenital factors. So congenital means that they are born with it at birth. So that means that you could have, for example, 2 dogs who don't have dings, so like the vestibular deafness, right? 2 Dobermans that don't carry the gene for their clear, who have a deaf puppy. And that deaf puppy is because of a congenital issue because the inner ear canal didn't form. You see what I'm saying? So it's something that happened, a birth defect essentially, but it's not because of genetics, it just happened. So one of the things that can increase congenital defects is what we call our COI, or our coefficient of inbreeding, AKA, what is the percentage of inbreeding that is in your dog? So when you're looking at these European dogs, their percentage of inbreeding is upwards onto 60%. Most of the ones I've come in contact with are 47% higher, up to 60%. That's a lot of inbreeding, which increases your risk, even if we are genetically clear for congenital defects. And one of the #1 organs that's affected by congenital defects is your heart, in people and dogs, typically, across the board, all animals. So here at Campbell's Family Dobermans, with the genetic knowledge I have with the breed, as well as the medical knowledge background I have with the nursing, I decided it was really important to decrease that COI, decrease the percentage of inbreeding. And by doing so, I can decrease the chance of congenital defect, but I can also take the American line that has lower instances of some things and the European line that has lower instances of some things and cross them. And by crossing them, I'm decreasing the percentage of inbreeding because this line is new to this line. Essentially, that's going to bring the COI down. But I'm also interrupting the gene pool, essentially. I'm not going to create these DCM dogs. They're my goal. You know, I can't say it'll never ever happen, but it's really my goal. I haven't had it happen yet. I pray every day that we don't ever have a history or a puppy develop that. But that's where we're going with it. So we purposefully do hybrids. We purposefully breed American lines with Euro lines. We are specific about what lines we're using as well as what look we want. We do like a more sleek, prettier face. That's just my preference. I want it to look like a Doberman. I want the workability of a Doberman. I want the love of a Doberman, but I also want overall health. And that is what I'm very, very proud of. Here at Campbell's Family Dobermans, our dogs like Sergeant here. Sergeant, so pretty boy. He has a COI, or a percentage of inbreeding, of 24%. That is phenomenal. And you can see, he's a big guy. He's actually, people are impressed when they see him. So all you people that haven't met him yet, you'll be very impressed. But anyway, all of my dogs here are under 28%, except for my full Euros. I have 3 full Euro girls who are higher, like 47, 48, but they will be bred back to Sergeant, which will then lower that COI. We check for genetics. I don't want to breed to affected or affected to a clear. So with us, all of our dogs are genetically tested. We do have a couple of von Wildebrands carriers, and those von Wildebrands carriers will only be bred to Sargent, who is clear. So we know we're not going to produce an affected von Wildebrands puppy. DCM, we're checking all the time. We're moving forward with the DCM 3 and 4, but something to know about that is considered experimental at this time. So there's no indication or studies that are actually showing that the genes DCM 3 and 4 are actually contributing to the development of DCM itself, but it is something to be aware of, and we will be starting to test all of our dogs for it, just for the information. And that way we can at least make educated decisions on who we're matching. But that's the biggest thing. I just wanted to talk about the differences, what might not be the ideal thing, but I think about it like this. I just recommend this. If you're looking for a Doberman and your mind is set on just European, start asking yourself why. Like, what is it worth paying a good investment, $3,000 to $6,000, some of these dogs, to lose your dog in 5 to 6 years for something that, if you got a hybrid or somebody who's actually caring about reducing that prevalence of these diseases, you might pay that $3,000 to $6,000, but your dog might live to be 12, 13 years old or older. So something to really think about. We need to be doing this for the health of the breed. We need to be prioritizing that and their functionality and prioritizing what they were bred for, not trying to make some boxy, overweight, unfunctional Doberman that looks cool for 5 years. Just saying. I'll see you guys next week on the next Pup Talk, and I think next week we're going to talk about the genetics of how can 2 black Dobermans make a red, because I had a lot of people confused about that. So we'll talk about that. I'll see you guys next week. If you have any questions or you have any suggestions about topics, you can drop them in the comments or send me a message. Have a good day, guys.